Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Astottarasata Sri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON's founder Charya Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Astottarasata Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakund Radha Kund Giri Govardhana Ki. Shri Vrindavan Dhama Ki. Mayapur Navadvip Dhama Ki. Ganga Mai Ki. Yamuna Mai Ki. Bhakti Devi Ki. Tulsi Maharani Ki. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaura Premanande. Hare Krishna. So this morning we will be reading from the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 17, entitled Maharaj Prithu becomes angry at the earth, and we are reading text 35. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 17, verse 35. Apam upaste Mai Navi Avashtita Praja Bhavan Adya Rirakshishu Kila Sa Vira Murti Samabhut Dharadhara Ya Mam Payasi Ugrashara Jigham Sasi Apamupaste Mayinavya Vishta Apamupaste Mayinavya Vashtita Apamupaste Mayinavya Vashtita Praja Bhavanadyari Rikshishu Kila Praja Bhavanadyari Rakshishu Kila Savira Murti Samabhuddharadhara Savira Murti Samabhuddharadhara Yomam Payasyo Grashara Jigham Sasi Yomam Payasyo Grashara Jigham Sasi Apamupaste Mayina Vyavashtita Praja Bhavanadyari Rakshishu Kila Savira Murti Samabhuddharadharo Yomam Payasyu Grosharo Jigham Sasi Apamupaste Mayina Vyavashtita Praja Bhavanadyari Rakshishu Kila Saviramurti samabhuddhara dharo. Yomam payasyugrasharo jighamsasi. Praja bhavanadyari rakshishu kila. Saviramurti samabhuddhara dharo. Yomam payasyugrasharo jighamsasi. Apam, of the water, upaste, situated on the surface, Mayi, in me, Navi, in a boat, Avastitaha, standing, Praja, living entities, Bhavan, yourself, Adya, now, Rirakshishu, desiring to protect, Kila, indeed, Sa, he, Viramurti, in the form of a great hero, Samabhut, became, Dharadhara, the protector of the earth planet. Ya, one who, Mam, me, Payasi, for the sake of milk, Ugrashara, with sharpened arrows, Jighamsasi, you desire to kill. Translation. My dear Lord, in this way you once protected me by rescuing me from the water, and consequently your name has been famous as Dhara Dhara, he who holds the planet Earth. Yet at the present moment, in the form of a great hero, you are about to kill me with sharpened arrows. I am, however, just like a boat on the water, keeping everything afloat. Please repeat, my dear Lord, in this way you once protected me by rescuing me from the water, and consequently your name has been famous as Dhara Dhara, he who holds the planet Earth. Yet at the present moment, in the form of a great hero, you are about to kill me with sharpened arrows. I am, however, just like a boat on the water, keeping everything afloat. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The Lord is known as Dhara Dhara, meaning he who keeps the planet Earth on his tusks as the boar incarnation. Thus the planet Earth in the shape of a cow is accounting the contradictory acts of the Lord. Although he once saved the earth, he now wants to upset the earth, which is like a boat on water. No one can understand the activities of the Lord. Due to a poor fund of knowledge, human beings sometimes think the Lord's activities contradictory. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militang Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Shtapitam Jaina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Shri Jita Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitangscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatapate Kupesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adigaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Hare Krishna. My dear Lord, in this way you once protected me by rescuing me from the water, and consequently your name has been famous as Dharadhara, he who holds the planet Earth. Yet at the present moment, in the form of a great hero, you are about to kill me with sharpened arrows. I am, however, just like a boat on the water, keeping everything afloat. The Lord is known as Dharadhara. Like we get the name Giridhari. Dhari means one who holds something above. And Dhara is Mother Earth, this planet. So the Lord is famous for that name. By holding the planet Earth, He protected her, saved her from being dislodged from her orbit, from her balanced situation by Hiranyaksha. So the Lord saved her, killed Hiranyakashipu, restored her position. So therefore He is famous. Now, despite being glorified by this name, Dhara, he's acting contrary to that name. And Prabhupada in this purport focuses on this point. The Lord's contrary nature, how He is the Lord of contradictions, or the Lord of paradoxes, you could say. Interesting here, you see Bhumi, or the earth in the form of a cow. She's addressing Prithu Maharaj. And Prithu, we understand earlier, he is an empowered incarnation. He's a Shaktivesh avatar. He's not that Adi Purusha, Supreme, Swayam Bhagavan, but he is a living entity empowered. So we accept him as a Supreme Lord, a Shaktivesh avatar. So in Prithu Maharaj, the earth is seeing the source of all incarnations, Bhumi Devi. It's interesting, this whole exchange that's going on. Here is a wonderful, great, surrendered devotee of Krishna, actually the consort of the Lord, Bhumi Devi, being heavily chastised, about to be killed with sharpened arrows, she says in that verse. But she has this composure about her where she's able, with her intelligence, to present different perspectives, even to the Lord. It's quite something, actually, when you think about it. Quite something. I'm not sure if any of you have ever been through a session of chastisement from your spiritual master, and you get all flustered and don't know what to say or do, and intelligence sort of just, flees from your mind, from your brain, if it's situated from your heart. It just goes away and you don't know what to say. But here, the earth, it brings new meaning to the word being grounded. She's very grounded. And she presents very intelligent points of view. That, hey, maybe not so flippant, but, my dear Lord, she sees in Prithu, Varahadev, Lord Boho. Adi Sukara, in the previous verse we read. Adi Sukara, the original boar. It's not that the Lord takes the form of a boar imitating the current boars. No, the current boars are the form of the original boar, Adi Sukara. And she says, you protected me on one hand from such grave danger. Now you are so easily moved to kill me. This doesn't make sense. How does that make sense? So she's so grounded, she's so composed that she's presenting intelligent points of view. Points of view. So these manifestations of the Supreme Lord in his various incarnations, they are quite extraordinary, isn't it? Unless you are sort of tutored with the stories, as bedtime stories about Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, Ravana, Lord Ram, and all the extraordinary things that they did, Varahadev, Matsya Avatar, who are the other Hayagriva. We look at these pastimes, just if you come to it with a blank slate, it's just too unreal, isn't it? It's just out there, completely out there. They can boggle our mind, and we think, that's the Lord. I know sometimes some of my family members listen to me speak, so I'm not sure if they're listening to me speak now online, but when I joined the Hare Krishna movement, I came from a spiritual religious path that was focused on denouncing the form of the Lord, negating it. And one of the things that one of my close relatives told me, that you want to worship, a pig, you want to worship somebody who apparently grows a lotus out of their navel, and someone takes birth on that. How does that make sense? How can you worship such a person? They just couldn't accept it. Even being on a spiritual path, a bona fide spiritual path, impersonalist is a bona fide spiritual path. There are three types of transcendentalists, that we understand, focusing on the different manifestations of the Lord, of the absolute truth, the impersonal, the localized feature, and the supreme person, Krishna, Swayam Bhagavan, Adi Purusha. So it can be very bewildering, very, very bewildering, isn't it? One of our methods, one of our approaches in dealing with atheists, right? Those of you who are often out there preaching to people in the universities and other places, you often come across scientists and atheists that will challenge us in different ways, right? And one of our main arguments is one of a logical presentation. We present logic to them. That, just understand, just look around and see, how can there not be intelligence behind creation? Right? Just think about it. This world is so structured, so ordered, so systemized. There's seasons, there's processes. How can there be not somebody? Can't there be somebody that's organizing everything? How can it just be left to chance? That doesn't seem logical at all. That's our main argument, isn't it, to atheists or scientists. How can it be by chance? How can a huge explosion, cause order? The bigger the explosion, the greater the chaos, isn't we expect? We expect from it. Even what's that famous story that somehow I've never ever been able to verify that it actually happened. But I mean, even if it's a story, not true, but it gives a nice understanding, a very good scientific understanding about approaching the existence of this universe, the creation of this universe through logic. Sir Isaac Newton, we all know he was a theist. He believed in the existence of a higher power, God. And he had an atheistic friend who denounced, that this world came about by chance. And then Newton, you'll know of the story? Newton had a artisan mechanic friend of his create a crank-like structure of the universe. So when you turn the crank, the planets would move in the similar orbit as they are calculated by astronomers. So he left this on this big table in his lobby area as you enter his home. And so this atheist friend of his came, and Isaac Newton was deliberately busy with something else, looking the other direction. And this man saw this, like, wow, and he turned this crank, and it all turned in the perfect order. Even it was rotating on its axes, and the different planets. And he was like, wow, this is amazing. He was so amazed, this friend of his. And then he turned to Newton and said, this is such an amazing representation. Who made this? Who made this amazing structure? I'd like to meet this artisan. And Newton, without even looking the other way, with his back facing his friend, said, nobody. And carried on. And the man said, no, I don't think you understood me. This is just so amazing. Of course somebody must have made it. It couldn't have just appeared here. No. Newton said nobody. I looked there one day and it's there. And the friend was like getting a little irritable. He didn't quite get it yet, what Newton was pointing out. And then Newton explained that, my dear friend, this is just a small replica of the huge manifestation that's working with such order, with such system, with such organization. And yet here I'm telling you that no one made this, but yet you will argue that no one made that. It doesn't make sense. So we base our faith on a logical approach, on a scientific approach of the existence of God. We look for certain situations that prove, yes, that this is showing the presence, the existence of God. And when something is inconsistent, like we see the scientist theories, Big Bang theory, it's inconsistent, therefore we don't accept it. It doesn't make sense, therefore we can't accept it, isn't it? And we're taught in our process that ours is the science, right? The science of Krishna consciousness. Something that can be experimentally proven. We must be able to understand. It must make sense. But here, even through the words of Bhumi Devi, Mother Earth, we are uncovering something that doesn't make sense now. She's exposing God. God exposed. God is being exposed in an amazing way. That while we debate and argue with logic and intelligence the existence and presence of the Lord, we find there are so many paradoxes, so many contradictions, contradictory activities even. We can get confused by how paradoxical the Lord can be. We just cannot understand so many things that are related to the Lord's form, His qualities, His pastimes, even His teachings, right? So many things sometimes like, where is this coming from? Like in terms of His teachings, on one hand, who's teaching Shunyavad, voidism? Who is teaching it? The Lord. Who is teaching Mayavad philosophy, impersonalism? The Lord. Of course, He empowers His expansion, Lord Shiva, who appears as Shankaracharya. So He's presenting that. And then he comes later and he refutes that and he presents something else. And then he comes later, or through his God-sent acharyas like Ramanuja and Madhva. Ultimately, the Lord comes as Lord Chaitanya and completely unravels even the Mayavad philosophy. So he does all these things. It doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense, at least on the surface. And here we see she's exposing him for something else that doesn't make sense. You protect me on one hand, and now you want to kill me. For what? What's going on here? You are being inconsistent. So these types of activities can bewilder us. And how do we deal with it? Or just another type of, I just noted down a couple of other paradoxes. In y'all's reading, okay, let's ask y'all, in y'all's reading of Shastra, have you come across some paradoxes, some contradictions in the Lord, His activities? Let's make a list of things that we can use to deny the Lord's existence. It's good to have that. What are some of the things? Let's go around. Ananta Sesh, you are unlimited, so you should have unlimited examples of paradoxes. Can we get a microphone for Ananta?
Hare Krishna. In one part of the Bhagavatam about Dhritarashtra, one verse describes him as a devotee, and another verse describes him as an impersonalist. So that's one kind of a contradiction.
Did you ever get it resolved? Yeah. So you'll find so many things like that. Anyone else? A paradox? Yes? Madhurya?
Well, this is like more of a paradox I found in kind of like philosophy, or I don't know. Like, you know, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, you know, if you're on this path, it never, your progress will never diminish, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then we also hear about the mad elephant offense of offending Vaishnavas. So that will kind of wipe away all of your progress. So that I found as a paradox.
Yeah. That's interesting. I mean, that's explicable. We can explain. But yeah, it does on the surface, like, my God, you know, Neha Bikramo Nasho Asti, all that you have done is never lost, and then suddenly you commit an offense and it's all lost. You know, we thought that was, what was it? 2 Fot? No. Anyway, in chapter 2, we thought that was the protection verse for offenders. If you offend, you'll be protected by this verse, that not everything is still protected. What else? Anybody? What else is a paradox in a contradiction? Rukmini?
I find it contradictory how Krishna is supreme and above everything and is able to control and shift everything, but then within his pastimes, he's confined in some ways, like when he doesn't go back to see the gopis because he's confined by social customs, and so this idea of him being utterly supreme but then also being...
Yeah, yeah. His pastimes can be bewildering. Anyone else? Okay, I'll read a couple here. How about that famous 5th verse of Ishopanishad? The Supreme Lord walks, and He does not walk. He is far away, but He is very near as well. He is within everything, and yet He is outside of everything. That's kind of turns things on its head. neither here nor there. What about the foundation of our scripture? The most confidential knowledge, chapter 9 Bhagavad Gita, at the beginning, verses 4 and 5. I still struggle with this. I mean, I have some explanation, but I still struggle with it. Krishna says, by me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. And yet everything that is created does not rest in me. Like in 2 sentences, he just flips everything around. Behold my mystic opulence. Although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I am everywhere, I am not part of this cosmic manifestation. For myself is the very source of creation. So it's very bewildering. Of course, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Baladev Vidyabhushan, they give very nice explanations based on Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan, and where they are located and how they expand in different ways too. So that verse can be explained. But still, just on a basic reading, an innocent reading, it can be very bewildering. Very, very bewildering. Now, how then do we approach this? How then do we maintain faith in the godhood of Krishna, on his supremacy? How do we accept that? One of Krishna's qualities, as mentioned in the very first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Abhigya Swarat. Swarat means completely independent. He's completely independent. And this Swarat, independence, is an essential quality to prove his godhood, his divinity, or his eligibility to be the Supreme Lord. He has to be independent. He is complete in his independence. And he has an existence that's beyond time and space. Like we measure everything according to dimensions, right? We see, we measure, we understand, we assimilate based on time and space. But time and space is existing where? In the material sphere, in the material world, in the material creation. But the Lord, is he existing in the material creation? Is he a product rather of the material creation? No. So he cannot be understood by material time and space. He's existing beyond that. Material time and space comes from him. How can he be controlled by then material time and space, its measurements, the logical understanding? So this shows these contradictions, this inability to measure him and understand his activities, in effect then is proof of his divinity. You get that? If he were not if he were not independent, if we were able to put him in a box, measure him, size him up and everything, like we can do with everything else and everyone else, how then can he be supremely independent and thus divine? Cannot. It doesn't make sense. So his paradoxical nature, his contradictory nature, activities are proof, actually. His inconsistency even is proof of his supremacy, of his divinity. Just like we hear sometimes about, how is it that Krishna doesn't understand something? Like we know in relation to the manifestation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His manifestation is proof that Krishna, Swayam Bhagavan, is not complete in his understanding. Now, if you just say that without understanding Lord Chaitanya, Krishna doesn't understand everything. It's aparad. It's offensive. It's blasphemy, isn't it? It's heresy. Get him off that Vyasa-san. He must never ever speak again, ever, in this temple. He can go elsewhere and speak, but not here. We'll get like that, right? But it's a limited understanding. Because yes, the Lord, and through relationship, because the Lord, to love of Krishna is unlimited, just as Krishna is unlimited. Bhakti, Bhagavan and Bhakta, they have the same nature. It's all unlimited. So the Lord cannot fathom how much of love Radharani has. So therefore he is technically, from a certain perspective, incomplete. But then how can the Lord be incomplete? So he is still complete because he manifests as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to completely understand Radharani's love. Just like we often hear that one statement, can God create a mountain so heavy that he cannot lift? Can he? No, he can't. Yes, he can. No, he can't. Yes, he can. Which is it? Yes, of course he can create a mountain that he cannot lift. But then, what will he do? He will go and lift it up. Just a few kilograms heavier than he create another mountain. Like that. So this inability of ours to understand the Lord fully, to reconcile contradictions, points to the actual fact that he is the Supreme Lord. If we were to understand him and contain him, how can he be unlimited then? That is the very nature of being unlimited. So, of course, he cannot be bound or understood by material or mundane sense of logic. Because he creates logic. Logic emanates from Krishna. Therefore, he is transcendental to all types of logic. So he is the Lord of all paradoxes. Paradox, according to the dictionary, a seeming contradiction that is nonetheless true. That's interesting. That sounds like a paradox itself. A seeming contradiction that is nonetheless true. It is something that exhibits inexplicable or contradictory aspects. I'll also just read Srila Prabhupada's purport, a part of Prabhupada's purport to that Upanishad verse. Prabhupada says, the contradictions given here prove the inconceivable potencies of the Lord. The Lord is known as Achintya. He is inconceivable. Even to define inconceivable is inconceivable. It's hard to do it. You can't. It's like a never-ending, like a, what do you call these loops that just go on and on. How do you contain a definition? How do you define the Lord? Ordinarily, if someone can walk, it is illogical to say he cannot walk. But in reference to God, such a contradiction simply serves to indicate his inconceivable power. With our limited fund of knowledge, we cannot accommodate such contradictions, and therefore we conceive of the Lord in terms of our limited powers of understanding. For example, the impersonalist philosophers of the Mayavad school accept only the Lord's impersonal activities and reject his personal feature, because they cannot accept it. It's too far out. Like I was describing some of my family. It's like, how can that be? It doesn't make sense. So then it's very easy to succumb, that's a good word, to succumb to the Mayavad philosophy. Because it protects them. It protects them from the possibilities of what could be. Because it's too far out. It's too far out. People are intimidated by that which they cannot understand. And God is beyond all mundane understanding, the personal form of the Lord. But the members of the Bhagavat Vaishnava school, adopting the perfect conception of the Lord, accept his inconceivable potencies and thus understand that he is both personal and impersonal. The Bhagavatas know that without inconceivable potencies there can be no meaning to the words, and in quotes Prabhupada says, Supreme Lord. Without inconceivability, how can you accept the Lord to be the Lord? So this in itself, just by logic, this is also a logical way of understanding all these paradoxes and how they can be reconciled. Maybe not in detail of each one, but at least in the general sense, that if the Lord were not contradictory, how can he be the Supreme Lord? But still, how then do we develop and maintain faith when we read all these paradoxes? The thing is, when we come to Krishna consciousness and we approach the Lord in our practice, in our development, a purification. And when we start trying to approach the Lord with our mundane senses, with our mundane, our contaminated mind and intelligence, that process will always cause us to stumble, will always cause us to fail and become bewildered. It will always happen. And we will accept what's happening in the pages of the Bhagavatam. We'll accept it. We may not understand it, but we'll accept it. But when we see something inconsistent and contradictory happening around us, and we'll question, how can the Lord allow this? How can this be sanctioned? The famous thing, why do bad things happen to good people? How many devotees have been troubled by that? So many devotees have been troubled by that. How can the Lord allow this? She was such a nice person. How could she go through all these difficulties? Or that person is such a terrible person. How is he always rewarded? On and on and on. Paradoxical, right? Doesn't make sense if we're looking at the surface. Looking at the surface. Krishna came as Sukara, Adi Sukara, the Lord bore to rectify the situation that the planet was in. So, and then he's acting contradictory now. He's coming to destroy the earth. All these doesn't make sense. So how then do we approach all these? We have to be guided. We have to be guided by Guru, Shastra and Sadhu. If we let our intelligence be guided by mundane logic, by mundane estimations and measurements, we will be bewildered. But if we let it be guided by the Bhagavad Gita, like Krishna tells to Arjuna, I declare that that person who studies this sacred conversation of ours, he's worshipping me through his intelligence. That means when you worship the Lord, when you approach the Lord, when you serve the Lord with any of your faculties, what is happening to your faculties, including the mind and the senses and the intelligence? They are being purified. So if we approach the Lord through the Bhagavad Gita, through the scripture, if we approach the Lord through the sadhus and the guru, and never approach the Lord, never try to understand, never try to grasp the Lord through any other means, then our consciousness will be purified. And by the grace of the Lord, not by our strength of realization, but by the grace of the Lord, understanding and realization will descend into our consciousness. That's what will happen. It will descend into consciousness. Just like that famous picture of Mother Yashoda looking into Krishna's mouth. Do we still have it here? Oh, there, yeah. So she has a certain conception, this is my son. Then Krishna lifts that conception off and she sees this child. He's actually the Supreme Lord. And then she gets bewildered and then he covers her again by Yoga Maya. So it's all done by the grace, not by her power of logic and understanding, but by Krishna's potency. He will allow realization to descend, understanding to descend into our consciousness. This is important. So we must allow, we must engage, apply our mind, our senses, our intelligence in the process, guided by Guru, Shastra and Sadhu, and not allow it to get bewildered by anything outside that. Once we get bewildered by anything out, then we start seeing contradictions, and we start succumbing, become victimized by contradictions, not only in the Lord, but in each other, in the situation out there, in the world. We get distracted by all of it, and we start focusing on it. We get consumed by all of it. But when we get consumed, guided by the Shastra and the Guru and the Sadhu, by hearing and chanting, by all these amazing, inexplicable pastimes of the Lord, then our mind and intelligences are being purified. I was just saying earlier that Krishna came as Varahadev, as Bhumi is pointing out, to rectify the situation that she was in previously. And Prabhupada also famously once said that through this Krishna consciousness movement, Krishna is rectifying the current situation on the earth. Isn't that quite something? Huh? And Prabhupada said how that is happening, we cannot understand it by mundane analysis. We cannot understand it. Now think about it, devotees. Have you ever thought, I've thought about it many times, over and over, that is this movement, am I and all of us sitting here today, are we going to be part of something that's really going to affect the entire planet? When I look at our operation and what we do, we wake up in the day and we get bewildered by, oh, no one's doing this and no one's doing that, and how is this going to get done, and how is the Sunday program going to happen? We were discussing the other day about this Japa retreat, and it was like, how many people, and we like contained in this thing, this bubble of activity based on our immediate capacities. But Prabhupada is saying, through this Krishna consciousness movement, Krishna is going to affect major changes on this planet through which movement? This Krishna consciousness movement. Do we think like that? Actually, the devotees in the 70s were thinking like that. I heard stories about how in one yatra somewhere, maybe just after Prabhupada passed away, but that momentum of Prabhupada's potency and his presence on the planet at that time was carrying through. The devotees actually, it's kind of funny to talk about it the day after, 2 days after elections, but the devotees actually had in there like some sort of manifesto. They had, yes, this person will be the prime minister, the devotee, this devotee will be like the minister of finance, this person will be the minister. They actually were planning like this, that if whenever the inevitable will happen soon, they were thinking soon, this is how we're going to place devotees. But now when devotees tell us, hey, Prabhu, is it okay to go and vote? I heard it's not right, it's like an offense to go and vote. We hear things like that. I mean, like, come off it, go and vote, it's fine. It's your constitutional democratic right. There's no issue with it, it's not a sin. So we get so bewildered, we get carried away. But rather, more important than voting, not saying that we mustn't vote, we should, it's fine. If it'll help better the situation, fine, we should do it. But more important than that is to ourselves grasp this purpose of the movement, to bring about major changes in this planet, the Sankirtan movement. And to be part of it, to align ourselves, position ourselves to whatever capacity we have. And you know what? We have unlimited capacity. Right? You have unlimited capacity. Yes. You're a devotee of Krishna. You're a devotee of Krishna. If we say, I can't do something, whoa, what are we saying about Krishna? Does it mean Krishna is limited? He can't empower me? Prabhupada speaks about himself that he was not one of the great persons of the Gaudiya Math. There were so many, he openly, out of humility of course, he says there were so many more qualified, learned godbrothers. And boy, if you read some of their writings, you'll be like, wow, this person is intelligent, so deeply realized. Wow, like books of Srila Sridhar Swami Maharaj. So brilliant. Brilliant. And Prabhupada says they were so much more learned, so much more qualified than me. But why did Guru Maharaj empower me? Why did it happen through me? Prabhupada once said, well, many times he would say that in India, everybody thought that what was written by, or what was spoken by the Lord in the Chaitanya Bhagavat was some poetic embellishment. Prithiviti atche yatanagara digram sarvatara prachar hoive moranam. It was just some nice thing to say, to expand, to show how merciful the Lord is, how powerful the Lord is. No, but it actually can't be done. That the holy name will appear in every town and village. But when it was done through someone like Prabhupada, who himself said, I wasn't somebody special. There were so many more learned persons. When it was done by him, everybody was astonished. It can be done. One lone elderly man 70 years old, in the space of 10, 11 years, manifested the holy name all throughout the world. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. So there's amazing Shakti. We may not understand it, but there's amazing Shakti that's coming from the Lord through His parampara system. It's coming through. And it can empower that person that's willingly, that's willing to do things that even the Lord wasn't prepared to do. Prabhupada is proof of that, isn't it? The Supreme Lord, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, He only spread Krishna consciousness through India. He only managed to do that. I mean, I don't mean it like... but who did He empower to spread it all over the world to do an even greater service? Srila Prabhupada. Because Prabhupada positioned himself to be a humble recipient of the parampara's empowerment. This is the point. It doesn't make sense. We may think, look at ourselves and say, it doesn't make sense. How can I do it? But if we open ourselves up to that possibility and just position ourselves to receive that amazing Shakti from the disciplic succession, who knows what amazing things will be done. When I look around the world of Krishna consciousness today, and I see some of these devotees doing such amazing, unparalleled things that I'm sure Prabhupada must be just amazed, amazingly pleased at when he's looking at some of the activities of these devotees. It's just something else, something else. Like Srila Prabhupada himself didn't break through the Muslim countries. But what did he say famously? That if you preach in the Muslim countries, what will I do, Prabhupada said? I will come and take the dust off your feet on my head. And he also said Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur will come personally and take you by the hand. So these are amazing things. Amazing things. If we just open ourselves up to the unlimited possibilities that are there, the mercy coming from the parampara, and not shortchange ourselves. But this means we have to apply ourselves to the process. We have to apply ourselves with faith and veneration and expectancy. Apply ourselves to the process. The process must, if it's working, it must empower us. It must. That's how the process works. It must empower us. It can empower us in amazing ways to do little wonderful things. Maybe our empowerment is to do something small in a very nice way. Like starting off with making someone feel like, wow, they are so important, they are so blessed, they are so fortunate to come before Radha Radhanath. Or it may empower us to cook a huge feast that's so amazing for the pleasure of everyone that comes. Or it may empower us to decorate the deity in such an amazing way. Or it may empower us to attract thousands and thousands of persons. They are all the same to the Lord. What needs to be there is my openness to being empowered. And not waste our time with all the mundane contradictions that surround us. Not to focus on it and in all the little distractions and irritations that come up, but to every morning look at a bigger picture. How can I be more empowered today by the Lord's mercy, by the Lord's Shakti, to do something for Him, to do something pleasing, and fulfill what Prabhupada said, that through this Krishna consciousness movement, Krishna is going to effect major change. The DA is not going to do it. MK is not going to do it. The Republican Party is not going to do it. BJP is not going to do it. Jai Hind. It's not going to happen through them. It's going to happen through the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If we simply humbly look for that empowerment every day, not just one day on the Shengadev Chaturdasi Swaha, and give me empowerment, purify my heart on one day. No, every morning purify our heart by praying to the Lord, please empower me, please empower me. and being a humble, loyal servant of the spiritual master and Srila Prabhupada and the Parampara. Just following them very strictly, abiding by their guidance, their direction, and great empowerment will come. Srila Kinchana Krishnadas Babiji Maharaj once spoke, one of Prabhupada's godbrothers, Prabhupada said he was a Paramahamsa. He said of Srila Prabhupada, he said, the reason why Swami Maharaj, meaning our Srila Prabhupada, was so successful, because he had complete faith in the chanting of the holy names and the instruction of our Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And by these two things, see what happened. Krishna consciousness spread throughout the world. That's the two things we simply have to have. Simply have to have. Then all contradiction, all paradoxes that are born out of the material nature, they will not affect us. They will wash over us like water off a duck's back, and we will be focused. I mean, it will affect us. I mean, it's not like we won't get the flu or COVID, stuff like. We will get all that, but still we will remain focused. We will remain focused and strong. All right, did I cover all the points? All right, so let's go and have breakfast, and afterwards change the world. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai.